This was a project that was difficult to put together, but easy conceptually to do. Anybody could do these kinds of deals if you know what you're looking for and you know how to put them together. That is the key. All right, guys, so I bought a property. It was actually a square, just like this right here. And I bought a property that had a 10,000 square foot building and it had a 30,000 square foot building. And these actually weren't buildings. These were old RV canopies that were not in great shape. They were 40, 50 years old, but they were perfect for parking RV and boats underneath it, and that's what caught my attention. So I bought this property for a price tag of $1,700,000, okay? Now, that's what was existing. I wanted to come through and I had a plan. The entrance to the property was right here. I had a plan to add a building here. I had a plan to add a building here, a building here, and a building here. Now, when I say a building, what I really mean is just more RV canopies, okay? So these blue things, and I was also gonna add another one all the way across right here. Now, in total, all of these new buildings came out to $1,800,000. Just so happens that's what it cost. And this was 60,000 square feet. So these are RV canopies. It cost me, we'll just do it here, $30 a square foot, okay, to build these. Now, I got a great deal on these because this entire property was already paved. I didn't have to do any sort of site work. I didn't have to do any sort of retention ponds. I didn't have to buy any sort of asphalt. So that's why I was able to build these things so cheap. If this was just a raw piece of dirt, it would have cost me hundreds of thousands, even up into almost close to $1 million in site work, plus the asphalt or concrete to park these things on. So that's how I built this for so cheap. Now, this came out to a total cost of $3.5 million, okay? I went to a bank. I didn't have $3.5 million. I said, Mr. Banker, what will you give me? They said, we'll give you 80%, okay, which came out to $2.8 million. Now, here's how that loan was structured, okay? That left us with needing to come up with $700,000 $700,000 of equity. So here's how a construction loan works. When you're going to buy this land for $1.7 million, you have not yet spent the full $3.5 million. In fact, you haven't even spent half of it, right? But you have to put your $700,000 in first. You have to put that money in at closing, and then the bank, so if we take the 1.7 I had to pay for the land, we put in $700,000 and the bank off their loan gave us $1 million. And then they had another $1.8 million, okay, sitting for this construction money. And as I spent the money, as I purchased the materials for the building, the bank would pay directly for that. That money didn't come out of my pocket. So even though we spent $1.8 million in construction, we got a construction loan on it, and we didn't have to pay any more than the $700,000. Now again, I didn't have the $700,000, so we went out and we raised money from investors for the $700,000, and that's how we funded this project, okay? So pretty basic construction loan, got it from a big bank. If I said the name of it, you definitely would know of them, which I'm generally not a fan of using big banks, particularly on construction projects, but they had good terms and we had a good relationship with a VP of a certain area at that time. So they wanted to do the loan for us, which was great. Now, the first 12 months on this loan were interest only. And again, we'd only pay interest on the money that we had drawn, right? Money you drawn. So the first time I bought this land, I drew $1 million and I had $1.8 million more to draw off of that loan. Every time I got money off the loan, that was what we call a loan draw. Fast forward, I built this place. We had some problems with insurance, which is why I wanted to turn around and sell this place. And here's what we ended up doing, okay? We put this property up for sale. We wanted to sell it because interest rates, or because of the insurance issue, but at that time there was another property just down the road. Let's see, my property versus, we'll call this the comp. Okay, they had 99, not dollars, they had 99,000 square feet. Okay, and they ended up selling for $10,200,000. Okay, and this was about 2 miles away from my property. okay? But at the time, they were full. When they went to sell, they were full, okay? My property, and also this was during a low interest rate time period. Now, we were hoping to get $10 million, but that's not what ended up happening, because we went to sell ours, it was only about 20% full, okay, because we had just opened it. Interest rates were rising. Interest rates were rising. And that's pretty much the full story, okay? Now on this one, they also had a 1031 buyer. When somebody has 1031 money, it means they're generally willing to pay more money to get a deal done, because on a $10 million buyer, they might be facing a $2 million tax bill if they don't actually place their 1031. The tax bill they're facing is really unknown. It depends on a lot of other factors, but somebody's motivation to pay more money being in a 1031 is definitely a real thing. So we didn't end up having a 1031 buyer. We ended up selling this deal for $6.2 million, okay? We ended up selling the deal for $6.2 million. And if you remember, we had the bank note, the mortgage, at $2.8 million. I actually came in a little bit under budget on the construction, saved a little bit of money there, owed a little bit less, but we'll call it 2.8. And then at the end of the day, that means 6.2 million minus 2.8 million, okay? How much money was generated off of that sale as general proceeds? So if you did your math right, the proceeds that came off of this were $3,400,000. Now again, remember, we invested $700,000 from investors, and we turned that into $3.4 million. Okay, so we profited. What is the difference? This is a return of capital, including the investment. So that means we profited. How much did we profit? 3.4 million minus 700,000 is we profited $2.7 million of profit, okay? And this was in 24 months. Now again, all of this, I would love to have held this property. I think one day it'd be worth 10 million or more dollars. It was a bad time to sell, but I had insurance problems. Which is what drove me to sell it. And sometimes taking chips off the table when you're not achieving the maximum price is something that's wise to do as an investor before you face further risks down the road. So it's always smart to think about not necessarily maximizing your profits, but taking wins where you can take wins. Off of this, I made over $400,000. My investors turned $700,000 into over $2 million of profits for them. And that is how a development deal breaks down. If you have any questions about any of this, I'd love to help you guys. This was a project that was difficult to put together, but easy conceptually to do. Anybody could do these kinds of deals if you know what you're looking for and you know how to put them together. That is the key, okay, is knowing how to put the deal together after you found a great deal. So follow along for more. If you have any questions, drop them below. And as always, I'm here for you. If you haven't read this book, Skip the Flip, Secrets 1% Know About Real Estate Investing, it contains everything about how I knew this property would generate massive profits before I ever invested a single dollar into it. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, share with a friend. Be great.